Rajeev Chandrasekhar is joining me now. He's Union Minister of State for Entrepreneurship, Skill Development, Electronics and Technology. Rajeev, good to have you this evening. First of all, to what Chidambaram said, he said this is the most capitalist budget to be ever read. What do you have to say to this comment?
I think for a man who built the edifice of crony capitalism, lived through it, and for a man who destroyed an economy from 2008 to 2014, I think he has obviously the right under the Constitution to speak, but I would hesitate to embarrass myself like he does constantly. He is, in my opinion, the last person who should wax eloquent about economic management, having done what he did between 2008 and 2014 to the Indian economy. And he's the last person who should talk about capitalism, because under his watch, we had crony capitalism, the kind that independent India had never seen before or after. So my view on Mr. Chidambaram is precisely that. If he wants to embarrass himself, it's his right to embarrass himself. But I would not pay too much heed to a man who has really reasonably dismal track record on anything economic.
I don't want to go by, the epithets that political parties use, but the basic point is the budget has not specifically offered anything to the middle class. Why?
Look, Arnab, I think we need to understand what is an offering to the common man and the middle class. When a government is spending an unprecedented 10 lakh crores on capital investment to build roads, to build ports, to build railway stations, to build airports, I can assure you this is unlike the Parivarwadi party. This is not to name them after some member of a dynasty. This is for the use of the common man and for the citizens of this country. 10 lakh crores. This has never happened in the history of India, that this kind of a quantum of money is being invested in public infrastructure. When the government spends 2.87 lakh crores on the world's largest food distribution program for the poor of India, that is for the people that it is being done. Now, if the definition of a benefit to the middle class is that you have to give a sop every time there is an election, we are ideologically on different sides. That is something maybe the Congress does and the Samajwadi party does or some other party does. Our entire narrative under Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to the people that we will deliver sustainable growth, we will give you clean governance, we will give you benefits in a corruption-free, direct manner. So our track record is not decided by a SOP that is announced 5 days before an election. This may have been the norm for many years under the Congress, but that is exactly the opposite of the way we function as a government. We believe in sustainable benefit. We believe in benefit to the citizen over today, tomorrow, and for the coming years. And that is why this budget talks about so much about investments. It talks about 10 lakh crores, 4.1% of the GDP being spent on creating investments and infrastructure for our future, of the people's future. So I just don't understand this middle class doesn't get anything argument that has been trotted out by the pioneers of crony capitalism and the pioneers of economic destruction and wealth destruction. But they are entitled to their view. We will stay on course on the economic principles that Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has laid out, called the Atmanirbharta economic ideology. And we will stay the course. And the results, by the way, Arnab, are there for you and everybody to see. Last year, precisely at this time, the same cast of characters came out of parliament and said, oh, it's a dismal budget, it's the bad budget, it is anti-people, no jobs. And today we are the fastest growing economy in the world. We are creating more jobs than any other country in the neighborhood. We are creating more investment than any other country in the world. And those are numbers there for the people to see and the citizens to see. But if people still fixate on a tired narrative that they have been arguing for the last 5 years, and they want to continue doing that in the face of all this evidence and fact and happenings and the rebound of our economy, more power to them.
So I quite understand this, and we were commenting about it earlier, that there's a fundamental difference in the way this government approaches the budget or the finance bill overall, and economic policy. You don't link it directly to the election. You're not looking at doing something immediately as a pre-election stunt, whether it's a big state election or a national election. You sort of de-link the two processes. Some would say this is politically risky, but maybe it's a different way of doing things. On the digital currency, there is some ambiguity. This digital currency which has been floated, you wanted to comment on that, on what I said earlier?
Arnab, I just want to make out, don't, it's not like we don't have a political strategy. Our political narrative, our political strategy is that we believe in sustainable economic growth and change. We believe in doing things that take time to play out and the benefits are there for people to see. I told you, like 1 year, 1.5, from June of 2020, the Congress leadership, including Rahul Gandhi and Chidambaram, went on and on social media and digital media, saying the economy is going to implode. If you just go back to the timelines after June 20 all the way, you will see that these people have been invested in this narrative, that somehow this dream team that they destroyed the economy between 2008 and 2014 are the only ones who understand economics. And it is probably true that they speak glib, they speak slick, they write op-eds in foreign papers and all of that. But the reality is, we have built back the economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has built back the economy, and we are rebounding faster than any other economy after this devastating, deep disruptive event of the COVID. Now, I heard a panelist here saying, Arun Jaitley ji said 2022 we will do this and 2022 we will do this. Of course, Arun Jaitley ji said that before the pandemic. And if you are, unless you are Rip Van Winkle and you are a head in the sand, you would know that the last 2.5 years the country and the world has been reeling under the pandemic, and that has hit the economy. Everybody says that has hit the global economy, and it has hit indeed our economy as well. So if you live in that denial and you want to make believe this narrative, like I said, you are not denied that right to speak, but you are embarrassing yourself when you do that.
Yeah, you took me in this direction. So straight question to you. One is the government now beyond this minute-to-minute Insta analysis by sections of the global media, we know, which wrote you off well before the COVID pandemic started, starting I would say March, April, even before that, when the NBFC issues hit. Therefore, I think it's 2 years actually, more than 2 years. You've been written off. You as in the government's been written off really badly. Are you over and above that? Do you turn a deaf ear to that?
No, look, I think for me, the turning point, if you want to ask my personal opinion, was during the COVID, when all of these Western influenced economists, these so-called, intellectual giants of economics, and some who pretended to be economic giants, all said we are doing the wrong thing, we need to do more, we need to put this, we need to do that. And frankly, this incremental, calibrated approach to the pandemic and economic policy making during the pandemic has given us the results today of where we are today. We are, and I repeat, at the risk of sounding like a stuck record, we are the fastest rebounding economy in the world. We have received more FDI today than any other country in the world. We have, during the pandemic, built the world's largest startup ecosystem. Now, these are all things that have happened during the pandemic. And so, it is only that convinces me that it is best to ignore these naysayers, best to ignore these people who feel deeply frustrated by the success of our policies, and stride on ahead. And that is precisely what Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and our government is doing.
And what about...
Go ahead.
Now, I would say, what about in the context of this, attempts to put you in a corner, this Ambani-Adani argument, what Ram Gopal Yadav said, bade logo ke liye kiya hai. After all, not everybody goes into the details of reading your performance and structural reforms over a 7-year period. People do get taken with the overall argument, and I'm sure sometimes you would also feel politically on the defensive.
No, I genuinely don't. And I tell you, Arnab, I think this is a lot in the figment of the media's imagination, that somebody coming out and glibly giving these sound bites. And we've heard politics of sound bites from the 60s onwards to now. But the problems that we are celebrating 75 years of independence, and we are still solving problems that existed 75 years ago. So it just tells you that people are going to ignore sloganeers and slogans, and to Ram Gopal Yadav ji and all of these other senior leaders who today trot out slogans of businessmen and businesses, and when they were hobnobbing with them, obviously they had no problem with it. And they are doing this obviously because there is an election around the corner. And I can assure you, Arnab, on 10th March, when you reconvene and call all of us on TV, you will find that people don't get swayed by these kind of misleading, deliberately, fake kind of narratives that are being built about business, government nexus. All of this has been tried, proven wrong, but people will keep trying it again. This government is focused on creating, expanding a sustainably high growth economy. That is the only way opportunities can be created. Fiscal headroom be created for the welfare measures that the government is determined to deliver to the vulnerable sections of society who have remained vulnerable for 7 decades. And that is the path that this government has embarked on. And we have made no bones about this from day one. That is the path that we want to go down. We don't believe in making fake promises and delivering little. We will go low on the rhetorics and we will execute more than what is expected from us, and that is the signature of the Prime Minister's governance approach and governance policies.
Now, given the portfolios you hold of entrepreneurship, skill development, electronics and technology, IT, and you're an entrepreneur yourself, have we done enough to be bullish enough right now? And what is the standout scheme? We've seen a focus on future-ready areas, of course. There's no doubt about it. That areas are being spoken about, emphasis being given where nobody would have imagined, yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
No, my question to you was that what's the standout approach which is different? Because we've got to pick the tailwinds, Rajeev. We've got to pick the tailwinds. It's good right now. We're positioned well vis-a-vis China. Are we doing enough for that in this budget?
No, I think there are many things today that are in front of India as opportunities, and I think there is added to that, there is this whole sense of self-confidence because of the way we have handled this pandemic, especially when we compare ourselves to other major democracies and major economies like the US and Europe and UK, where we are way ahead in terms of vaccinations, we are way ahead in terms of economic rebound, we are way ahead in terms of new investments. So I think there is a combination of factors that makes us increasingly more confident and in a position to reimagine our future. And, like I said, there is this whole, and as the Prime Minister said recently during the World Economic Forum program in Davos, that there is a change in the global value chains, in the manufacturing value chains, and India wants to play a larger role in manufacturing, in electronics manufacturing. The Honorable Finance Minister referred to that today in a budget in terms of investments in logistics, investments in modernizing and making it more efficient our national logistics networks. Those are all part of a strategic plan to make India attract more and more investments in manufacturing, create more and more manufacturing jobs. You are already seeing that in the electronic space, Arnab. We are the second largest mobile phone manufacturer in the world today, and we are surging today at about 27-28% per annum. Exports are at an unprecedented $400 billion of exports, and for the last 10 years, we have never crossed 325 billion. So all of these are tailwinds, and the tailwinds are pointing towards India having these opportunities of making a significant breakthrough into the manufacturing value chains, especially in electronics and technology. And I think that was mentioned in the budget today, and I am very, very optimistic about the future for India, and that fact that last year's budget and this year's budget pushes us in that direction of realizing that opportunity. Absolutely.
Well, I think you put it in perspective. Difference in approach, complete difference in strategic thinking. I think we're going to have to reconcile to that. Rajeev Chandrasekhar, thank you very much.